Alright, so let's continue with this. So what would happen is I would take this object now and duplicate it over and over again, right, to form a box. I don't know. Is that such a wise idea? It's not really a good idea, actually. What would be better is if I make this one amazing and then take it and then duplicate it after it's textured to form a box. Also, you can see that, I have that same issue going on right here, that little edge thing that I talked about. So what I'm going to do is take this edge right here and cut it. Move it. Cut the edges. Unfold it. And I'm going to set it right here. Not change its size at all. It still fits in that area. Just now I have a good representation of those edges, and you can see that that makes more sense. All right. Now we're going to get to the phase where I show you how to easily texturize this versus not easily texturize it. Alright, now in the past, what we've done is taken these UV shells into Photoshop, and then we hand paint on the object, and then bring it back to Maya. That's in the past. We still do some of those concepts, and we still use Photoshop, but as far as painting all of it in Photoshop, now, the shadows, we can easily calculate those in Maya, so we don't have to worry about painting or hand painting shadows in Photoshop. Another thing we have to kind of think about is pre-render versus post-render. Okay, we want this object to look amazing at pre-render status. In other words, in the viewport, I should be able to look at it and be very proud of it. Rendering just makes it epic. Alright, so we always kind of think about that. Always make it look amazing in the viewport under the worst default rendering quality, and then when you render it, it will look epic. Alright, cool. So those are a couple things that we have to think about now. So I'm not going to drag this into Photoshop just yet. I'm going to bake the shadows into the corners of these. This is called Ambient Occlusion. We can preview what Ambient Occlusion looks like using Viewport 2.0. We can turn on the properties here, and then down below we have Screen Ambient Occlusion. I would save your object just in case before you turn this feature on. Let's turn it on. And you might not see what happened, but if you can see here in the corner, I have this nice little shadow. Now what I'm doing right here is turning on a feature that enables me to see that. And what's nice about the feature is it's there, but it's costly. So you can really feel the cost of it. It's making my system lag a little bit. Not too much, but it's there. And what's nice though, I can change the amount. I can change the amount to like something like this. I can preview the radius. Look at what happens when I have the filter. So here's the filter of 10 versus 28. Okay. And here's the number of samples. So I can have 36, 32, 8, 16. What's nice about being able to see this and change the values is now we can really look at baking those values in. So I use Mental Ray to bake these in, but I can preview what the amount of radius, filter, and samples are ahead of time using this viewport 2.0. Alright, cool. So I'm going to just kind of put that off to the side, and then we're going to turn a feature on called Mental Ray. So let's go to Plugin Manager. And I'm looking for Maya et More. Turn that on. And auto load. Close. Now if you save your scene, Mental Ray will always be on during the scene. Okay. So whenever we're doing this, I'm going to set a project now. And then we're going to go looking into rendering. And we're going to go to Batch Bake Mental Ray, square box. Okay, so where's that box at? I was looking over on my other monitor. So here we go. The objects I want to bake are the selected ones. Make sure it's unselected because you do not want the other one. We want to bake to a texture, and this has multiple objects, sort of, but not really. There's a single object, but I'm going to keep multiple objects on. And I want to use the Use Bake Set Override. This allows me to choose what I want to bake. I want to bake this Ambient Occlusion. So instead of having that feature on in the viewport, I want to be able to have it on in the texture. This will save render time, and that's what really counts. Saving render time. Name it Create Shadows Bake. I would keep the naming convention, something that you know the difference between the bake and the object. So there we go. Here's number of samples. Well, I know the number of samples now I want, but I can only go to 4. Okay, so I know 1's bad because I can preview that, and you can definitely see the preview quality of a 1 compared to a 8. So 4 is what I got in Mental Ray. So this kind of translates back to Viewport 2.0 a little bit, but in some cases you just double the number, and you should be fine. So in this, that might be an 8, here it might be a 4. Bake to 1 map? Yes. Alright, cool. Now, this takes a couple seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit convert, and then I'm going to sit and wait. Now, what I would highly suggest is having this area down here clear, because that way you can see the status of it. And I'll meet you back in the next video after, or the next section here is after this gets done. Alright, so here's our object after it got done baking. Very nice, right? And let's look at the UVs. So that would have been a lot of work in Photoshop to be able to bake all this stuff in or hand paint it in. It would have really took a long time. But with this, I could just click it and let it set and have it calculate all those shadows for me, and then I can take it into Photoshop and do the little tricks. So that's a difference. So let's kind of look at this. Since the wood texture on this, we're going to be bringing it into Photoshop, placing a wood texture on top of it, kind of looking at a couple things as far as Photoshop is concerned, and a little bit more Photoshop in the next unit. So let's plop that texture down on there and see what happens.